over, if you don't mind. I was just wanted to, as we're going through the presentation, if anybody has any questions, maybe we can stop and then we can answer them and go on.
You don't want to save for the end?
Well, we do. We have some questions at the end also, so for board members. All right.
Okay.
And I also just wanted to just add, you know, I started here at Roosevelt Island with 31 years of experience in transit. I was wondering if anybody needed a history of what I did there.
So
We
had,
read up on you very well before you got
here.
Okay.
All right.
Checked you up totally.
All right. Fine.
And besides, this is the good part now.
Right.
Okay, very good, very good.
Plus they know all about you in Rockaway, and it's the words all over.
Thanks. I just wanted to also say, if you were interested on how we got this information, how we got to this point, I can go over it a little bit with you. If not, we can move on.
Sure. That I'm interested in.
Okay, that would be pretty good. All right, as you know that before I was appointed, I was on the island driving, riding the buses and everything. I was gathering some data, and some of the things that I observed on it was poor scheduling, poor safety habits, poor communication between bus operators and customers. Not to limit, but there's a lot more issues. Transportation is not only just buses, as you're going to see in the slides up here, you're going to see that it's a bigger picture. The first thing I had to do when I got here was to gather a gang, all right, which is a team. And the first one that I appointed was myself. For the first 3 months I was on my own. I got Buddy, which is my superintendent of maintenance, involved. I got Mr. Anderson, superintendent for the revenue, and I have Evie now. We collected some data, we identified the problems, and we developed a plan. As you're going to see in the PowerPoint here, we developed training classes, we developed special forms to be made out for overtime, for mechanics, and the way we hire people now, which we'll be getting in the future with PowerPoints. We communicated the plan to everybody, which was the bus operators and the people from maintenance. We did a training class, and we did a 19A class and a customer service class. All right, we monitored the plan. We got feedback from the union and bus
Second side. Acknowledging that the chair of the committee, Mike Shinazaki, has arrived and will take over the operations meeting this one forward. This one counts, because I talked real good. Mike, we're just on the transportation presentation in Silas. Sorry.
I start. Okay. All right, so we monitored the plan, we got feedback. How we got the feedback was by our shop gate meetings with the union, from the maintenance department and the bus operators. That was all positive. Right now we're at a point how we got here, and we've been adjusting the plan monthly to make it better. And that's how we got to this PowerPoint. Okay?
Okay.
It just wasn't thrown together.
So what I'm going to do is attempt to give you an overview. Is it better if I stand up? Can everybody hear me? Better for Rick.
Whatever you're most comfortable.
You might not be able to get me out of here. No, I want to give you a quick overview of what we do in the transportation department, some of the issues that Cy and I are both new within the last year, so some of the issues that we've come across over the last several months. And
can I stop you there just for a second and say, what is your position in the hierarchy?
Yvonne Chavella, and I'm transportation planner.
Did you come with a background in transportation and long as size?
Similar, but not as long as size. I have an undergraduate degree in urban planning from Ryerson University in Toronto. I worked with Senator Serrano for 4 years. I left his office as his chief of staff, and I actually did a lot of work with Roosevelt Island. I was his liaison to Community Board 8 in Roosevelt Island prior to coming here, and also did a studio project. You may be familiar with Access RI. It was with Hunter College, and it was to address accessibility issues on the island. Broader term accessibility issues with regard to access to housing, affordable, and that stuff.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. So this is our attempt to give you a brief overview of the transportation department. As you know, we're going through strategic planning here at RIOC, so we have a brand new mission and vision statement that I'd like to share with you. Our mission is to provide a safe, reliable, sustainable, intermodal transportation network. Our vision is for Roosevelt Island Transportation Department to strive to be a leader in innovation and sustainability in the area of public transportation, and to successfully implement and evaluate creative and effective transportation solutions. So this is just an organizational chart for the department. We have divided the department up into 3 major sections: fleet management, infrastructure, and surface transit. We're going to go into them in further detail as we go through the PowerPoint presentation. So now we wanted to just go through the management for the department. We have 4 key management staff, along with our union staff, bus drivers, etc. General manager, of course, you've all met Cy. He's in charge, of course, of the oversight of the entire department. He's very involved with the bus operators' schedules and supervision of the bus operators. He's in charge of human resources for the transportation department, hiring and firing, discipline, everything. He's also a dispatcher. He does road control, ensuring that the roadways are clear for the buses, and also for the other modes of transportation. He also does customer service for the transportation department. We get a lot of feedback through See Quick Fix, phone calls to the bus garage, you name it, and Cy's there to help address those.
Do you know what he does too?
You know what? He does. He washes the buses. I'm telling you.
I do.
He does.
Wash them, sweep them, and no bus goes out unswept, and no bus goes out dirty.
That's right.
And the rims are clean. No grease on the hubs.
Cy's involved with making sure that advisories go out and that we let you know of service changes well in advance. Every single day, Cy gets up and checks next bus, make sure all the buses are logged in so that you can see them on your GPS tracker so you know when the bus is coming. We monitor the transportation infrastructure island-wide. We share this responsibility with engineering. They do the fixing, but we're in charge of making sure that the bus stops are operational, ready to receive our buses, that service can go out, that the pedestrian walkways are connected, clear, all of those sorts of things. We're also in charge of signage and, of course, the motor gate parking garage. Now I have to talk about myself, which is always a little bit awkward, but I was brought on to look at short and long range planning for the transportation department. I'm very involved with what's going on in the GPS and trying to ensure that our performance indicators that we should be getting from that are up to date and accurate. I'm trying to work on getting more data for the department, working on a parking strategy, mapping, ADA compliance, signage, specifically wayfinding, and cleaning up the traffic signage. Policy, such as the stroller policy, which we worked on with RIOC earlier this year, customer service, and public information, etc. We also have a maintenance supervisor who's in charge of basically everything to do with all RIOC vehicles, not just the buses, but ensuring that the other vehicles that are used for garbage collection, grounds, etc., as well as the equipment that's used for snow clearing, you name it, that falls under our maintenance supervisor's roles and responsibilities. He's in charge of the oversight of the bus garage, dispatching, road control. We're all out there doing that. The bulk fuel storage, we have to have gasoline on hand to fuel the buses and the other vehicles, and that involves a lot of oversight. We have to have a vehicle replacement plan to ensure that we will have well-maintained and operational vehicles to serve our needs. He's also involved with human resources along with Cy and with training the bus operators. Our revenue supervisor is in charge of collecting all of the revenue from the parking meters and of the buses, processing that revenue. He's also involved with dispatching, road control, bus supervision, and training as well. So now we go on to take a closer look at what all of the different areas basically do. So we all think of transportation and we think of surface transit, the buses that go up and down the street. We have to make sure that they're in operation, that they're running on time, that we can move our passengers safely, that we are keeping the customer service at a high level, that we are ADA compliant, that we are actually collecting our fare, that the next bus GPS tracking is up and running for people to access, and also to ensure that everyone's advised as to what's going on with the transportation system. So, having said all of that, we move close to 2 million people a year on that red bus. That's based on our revenue collection only. This is one of the, go ahead.
So that doesn't count like kids riding for free on the way to school?
This is the roughest estimate of ridership, and you'll see later on in the challenges section of our PowerPoint. Data collection is really something that we want to get a better handle on. The only way for us to really get an idea of how many people ride the buses, aside from doing, you know, a short-term snapshot of a ride count or so on, is to take the revenue that we've got and divide it by the fare, which could be 10 cents, 25 cents. So this is a pretty loose estimate. Having said that, we have 8 full-time bus operators and 7 part-time bus operators that make that all happen. They're all part of the Teamsters Local 210. We have 1 bus helper that is washing, helping with the garage maintenance, etc. The next section that I'm going to address is the fleet management section. Areas of responsibility is monitoring, repairing, and maintaining all RIOC vehicles and motorized equipment, oversight of the bus garage, oversight of the fuel storage, vehicle replacement plan. For this, we have 4 full-time mechanics. We recently brought on a full-time driver/mechanic, which was something that we're shifting towards having staff that can do 2 different things. So if a bus needs to be fixed, he can fix it. If there's a shift that needs to be taken, he can go out and drive it. We also involve our helper in this as well.
You always have the fuel storage. I don't remember, are fuel storage above ground or below ground?
Below ground.
Okay, how do they audit that fuel consumption rates and stuff? Because there have been problems at other fuel storage of leaking both into the ground and fuel disappearing.
We have Henrik.
Right. We just,
Yeah, that was
We
the
run
board
our
item that
reports.
that the board approved
Yeah,
at the last
right.
board
Last
meeting for the
has that been
oversight
installed yet?
and of our fuel.
Has that been implemented yet?
It was ongoing.
Okay.
Before, it was
Right.
just a renewal, it was a
Exactly.
5-year contract.
Right, they ran into
Good.
problems,
Right.
at some other locations where they had some fuel leaking into the ground. And, that caused environmental challenges, that's what I was asking whether we're monitoring. We're fairly close as far
Yes.
as accounting for the fuel, and we're not losing
We run a
any.
7-day, Henrik emails me a 7-day report, I do a hard copy of the report, I get a 10-day report, and then we do a 30-day report.
We
with
didn't
an
ever
alarm
done any
system
soil sample
report.
testing around the fuel wise?
Henrik would do it, that's why we pay him.
Okay.
Okay.
Just curious, thank you.
No,
You had
no.
oversight as fuel storage, I was just wondering what that covers.
I mean, it's just, overseeing fuel storage is complicated, so it's very important for us to have somebody in who knows all of the ins and outs of it. So we're really glad that we have Henrich, because otherwise, you know, we'd have the same questions.
Because it is complicated and it's dangerous. If you have fuel, if you have either regulator problems or you have leaking storage, then you have all kinds of other issues to deal with.
Yeah. Our number 1 priority in transportation department is safety. It just has to be. I mean, you know, for the staff up there, for the people who live on the island, for the people who park in Motorgate Garage, we make sure that that's up to code.
Replacing storage tanks is difficult, so I was asking whether we're checking if it's leaking at all.
Yeah, that's part of the obligation under the contract.
Okay, thank you.
So just a little bit about our fleet. I'm sure most of you are aware we've got 7 buses. 4 of them are 2005 buses. We have 2009 all Orion buses, and 1 2007 that was purchased as a demo. They're all hybrid electric. Now we're going to go into the infrastructure section, which is sort of the forgotten section of the transportation department. Everybody thinks red buses. Well, we're just trying to remind everyone that that's not all that we do. We are kind of just getting started on this, to be perfectly honest with you, but we have a lot of great ideas on how we can make the transportation infrastructure better on the island. We'll be monitoring roadways, pedestrian pathways, bus stops, the way that public spaces interact as transportation, multimodal spaces. Once again, we've mentioned this a few times before, signage, wayfinding. The Motorgate parking garage, as you know, is a sort of aged transportation
And the helix.
infrastructure. And the helix, we're looking into different ways, first of all, of course, to bring up the structural integrity with engineering, but also to find ways to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. On-street parking. As you know, we're working on an island-wide parking strategy. So, for our department, here are the numbers. Bus revenue, around $450,000 a year. This is for fiscal year 2012. Our expenses were about $1,300,000. So that leaves us with about $850,000 difference. For parking, this is where we're making money. $2,035,000. The expenses are only around $725,000, so we're coming out with about $450,000 in surplus.
What do those expenses include? Is that just the meetings and the expenses for parking?
That includes everything for Motorgate too.
Oh, okay, too?
Yeah.
Does that include the amortization of the repairs that we're doing with the power and electrical and lighting? And
Yes.
all the
Okay.
Except capital.
Okay.
But does this include the amortization of the capital
I don't think
expenses
so, it
as far
doesn't
as?
include, it's just operating expenses
Just operating expenses?
Right.
Okay.
from Motorgate mostly.
If we took into account all of the amortized capital expenses over the life of what we're putting in there, with the new lighting and the cameras and everything else, would we still be running at a surplus, or would we not be running at a loss?
No, we would be running at a loss
No.
with depreciation.
And also just to note that that is just RIOC 61% of the allocation from Motorgate, not Manhattan Parks. So now we get to move on to sort of the fun part, accomplishments. As sort of an external party, this was sort of a size major accomplishment upon me joining the team at RIOC. Improved service reliability for the Red Bus. We implemented increased supervision, AM and PM rush hour dispatchers, road control, and now the buses are running on schedule. We've had a significant reduction in negative comments, questions, feedback, anything about our buses not running on schedule.
I will tell you, I'm getting stopped much less than people just yelling about the buses. So it's
More or
good.
less.
More or less, being stopped less by people screaming about where the buses are.
I would echo that.
Yeah, I used to get stopped all the time.
Right.
Well, you have to be careful, I don't wanna,
I get stopped about where they're stopping, there's still complaints about the route, but
I don't wanna, I don't need to sound critical. Obviously, there's been a great, improvement in bus service, I do it myself. But sometimes when people aren't complaining to us anymore, so it's like,
that could be.
I don't think that's the case here necessarily, but it's just a, I don't know, I'm not challenging you, it's an information that needs to be.
Right, I still have people who go back and forth about where the bus stops down at tram. And I still have people, when it's raining, complain, what I told you before about why it stops halfway down from the bus stop, the train stops, it's stopping right in front of the train, exit. But other than that, people haven't been complaining much about really, really long waits for the bus, as they used to.
Well, we could check it by headways with the GPS system, and our headways are almost perfect.
Yeah.
They want to come down to Depot. come
So,
on
I
down.
mean, we used to complain because they come in bunches,
Right.
and I'm not getting those complaints
Right.
anymore.
Plus size there every
Yeah.
day, checking the bus drivers.
Just watch your PRH.
Yeah.
It's good. He's right here, you can speak to him.
So
I could help them out.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
we have another accomplishment that's really going to be accomplished this Thursday. As I'm pretty sure most of you are aware, we're extending the Red Bus service down to the park, which has been something we've been hearing for a long time. We want to have Red Bus service down to the
This I
park.
really gotta stop and ask you about. Why are we doing that?
Why are we extending it?
Yeah. But, I mean, how many people are gonna be going to the park at 5:45 in the morning? And isn't that gonna extend the amount of time it takes to do the loop?
Can I address it, sir?
Yeah.
It's just that we're actually not building any additional time into the schedule. What we've done is we found that there isn't enough time that we used to have been laying over as sort of wasted time by the tram. We can actually cover all of that additional ground, make those 2 stops, and not lose any time and or resources, basically.
All right, I'm a party of one on this, but I've always thought that the route was crazy, going around the hospital, now going all the way down to the park, when we could have just done a small curb cut by the tram and turned around and went right back down again, so.
Yeah, cutting the layover at the tram will depend on whether or not the drivers are cognizant enough to wait for the tram to land and people to get there before they take off. If we're forcing them into a tighter schedule of 2 more stops, and they may take off before.
Well, we do address that a little later
Later
in
on,
the
we'll address-
PowerPoint
okay.
presentation, so it's gonna get us all excited. Okay, so we will be extending the route, and we do have a little bit more information that after the PowerPoint we can go into an info
Okay.
sheet and all of that kind of stuff. We changed the stroller policy, working with RIOC. We changed the design of the route. Before we had some of the buses short turning at the firehouse, and now we've got them all going up to Octagon. That makes for more reliable, predictable service. People know what to expect. Driver training. All of our drivers are now 19A certified, and we've been doing in-house training for customer service, awareness on driver fatigue and stress, and as well basic bus operation tips. 19A, I'm gonna let.
19A is a law, came in about 1970. What happened was up in Rockland County, an off-duty firefighter got involved, fell asleep on railroad tracks, and a train hit the school bus that he was driving. And then they implemented 19A because there was a total of 19 injuries, and it added up to a certain amount of deaths. And ever since then, the law is getting stricter, stricter, and stricter. All right. They need a medical every 2 years. They need a road test, which I give them. They need an observation ride. They need a multiple choice test, which I give them. Okay, and they have to be monitored. When I first got here, there was no 19A certified examiner on the property. And then that's what it's all about. And we have to stay in those guidelines. The records have to be separate from the population of their folders, which is a 19A folder, which the motor vehicle department will audit me. Now I have to go to the motor vehicle department and show them the folders. Right now I have access to the motor vehicle department. When we hire someone, I can run the abstracts, I can get who's driving what car, and I get an insurance card number, I can get who's driving that car. So there's multiple things I can do with the certification. We'll also take a bus operator out of service for us if he's doing something that's unsafe that I feel.
While we're on the topic of safety, OSHA, we had 4 people who work in the bus garage area certified in the Tenora OSHA training, and we brought the garage up to compliance. We had a little mock inspection, and all of the items that were identified have now been rectified, so our garage is up to code for OSHA. We have a more efficient staffing plan for the operators, which means the schedule that SI designs when the bus drivers work, and the trick for transit is really to do this in the most efficient way so that you're not losing money and that you're getting the most service for what you're paying.
One of the problems that we ran into was when I first got here, there was no really set schedules. Well, you report at this time and you finish at that time. Now the operators can go on their report time, their pull-out time from the Octagon, their lunch time, and their pulling time. So all organized there, if anyone wants to look at it. This is your full-timers, this is your part-timers. So when somebody coming in for a piece of work, they have a place to go to, not just to a person that says, okay, go to the Octagon and start going.
Okay. And you can flag them if they exceed maximum driving hours per period.
Well, there's an 8-hour rule,
Yeah.
and we go by an 8-hour rule. That's where the fatigue costs me.
Yeah.
We're also focusing on the health and morale of the staff members. We've installed some fitness equipment in the locker rooms. We're working on sort of updating the look, having streamlined uniforms, some new pieces, the new vests that the drivers got, and also the importance of just getting up at the end of your run and stretching your legs for your sort of mental and physical well-being. So now we're going to go through some of the challenges that we've met. Roosevelt Island is very unique geographically. I've yet to find another island like it. If somebody finds a case study, please let me know. Congestion on Main Street is a real issue. We have one Main Street, that's our artery. We deal with double parked vehicles, commercial vehicle deliveries, traffic, emergency vehicles, construction vehicles, utility vehicles. We deal with a bridge that raises and backs up traffic. So this isn't meant to be sort of our complaining session, but it's just to let you know some of the things that we're doing our best to overcome. We have an aging transportation infrastructure. We have a unique relationship between drivers and the customers that they serve, sort of an enhanced level of comfort, if you will, that makes it challenging to get the fare out of some passengers, and also extended conversations take place as well, which is understandable, but it's not exactly safe. We are dealing also with the challenge of relief facilities for the operators, albeit a small island. We're trying to keep the schedule as efficient as possible, and we need to have somewhere for the drivers to stop. Availability of data, we mentioned earlier, we want to look into potentially some technology that we will address. Revenue collection, we don't collect a lot of money, but the volume of the actual cash that we collect is logistically challenging for us. We collect $1 bills in the fare box, which most transit systems do not. There's a few issues with that, in that when the fare box jams a lot, basically, with people putting money into the dollar slot. And we've been having some issues where, in some cases, they're actually spitting the dollar back and the card back with 75 cents. So we see this as a major concern for us, that we do not want to be losing revenue like that. Also, what I was mentioning before, the logistics of it all, our revenue manager spends pretty much the majority of his day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, counting money in a room. There needs to be a second person in there working as well. So it's a very time-consuming operation. Manpower availability with a small staff like ours, it's sort of challenging if 2 people call out sick or, something happens to coverage. And also health is an issue. We mentioned 19A earlier. We have, a driver that has, say, diabetes. They get pulled off the road. They can't drive. It's not safe. So then we have a driver that, we can't put into revenue service.
If we look back to that counting the cash, don't we have machines that count the cash?
I can answer that. So we have a machine in the money room that counts the coins, no problem. But when it comes to the dollar bills, getting the dollar bills out of the box itself, and then sitting there counting each.
We don't have a dollar bill counter?
We have the dollar bill counter, but we have to do the hard way first, and then we put it into the counting machine.
They come out in a ball,
And
basically.
the biggest problem that we have come upon since I've been there is the dollar bills themselves. We didn't do them, actually, my daughter did it for school. She collected dollar bills and wanted to know what was on the dollar bills. So eventually we were gonna ask if we can eliminate the dollar bills. Because when we use the rubber gloves and we go through these dollar bills, within an hour or 45 minutes, the gloves are totally dirty, filthy. So it is very, very hard. The reason nobody takes dollar bills from mass transit or anything like that is because the back system will rip it up. We have to go into our fare box and pull a box out.
Manually versus the large systems,
Right.
they use a large vacuum to
Holes,
something like that, basically.
and it sucks it right through the system into a box. But nobody's taking dollar bills really, except the smaller companies. That's why I like to eliminate the dollar bill. 2 reasons. The second reason is because we won't be losing revenue. Fare box gets jammed, the dollar bill goes in, hey, broken. That was one of our major problems, losing revenue that way. All right, just by a simple thing of putting a quarter in or a dime, and you can see the line just go very quickly.
It'll speed up service too.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what
The next item is maintenance of the buses. There's a lot of issues with the hybrid buses. They're a little more demanding on the maintenance side. They require some more costly pieces as far as replacement parts and so on and so forth. We're also dealing with the challenge of the condition of our bus garage, basically being inadequate for the buses that we have now. It's a really low ceiling, so basically when the mechanics are working on the buses, they're sitting in chairs like this, looking up, which is of course not an ideal situation. I had mentioned before that we did the mock inspection of the facility, and a number of violations were found. Of course, because we are part of New York State, we were not issued any citations. Mock? We basically had somebody from the Department of Labor come in and tell us what was wrong so that we could fix it. We can't be issued the citation, but we wanted to know just basically because we'd like our facility to be up to standard.
From the maintenance problem, it says we can't raise the ceiling. It's gonna be harder to lower the floor.
Well, we can't lower the floor, we're kind of thinking out of the box here. We're gonna go
Here,
down
the
to.
tires.
No, actually, we can't even do that. We were thinking of utilizing the parking area where we park the buses in a section and put up a a dome.
Okay.
And that would save us a lot of money, and we could heat it probably cheaply. And any work, what we call a bus going in the air, we could use on the outside of the depot. That's one way to do it.
Would you putting in lifts there?
Yeah, we could put, we have lifts that specifically lift the bus up. You know.
Island access points are a challenge that we face. We don't have control over the F train or the P102 bus. And the Roosevelt Island Bridge, of course, is lifted from time to time, which causes backups and so on. So, moving forward, these are some of the ideas that we have for the transportation department. We want to rebrand the red bus. Right now it's called the red bus because it's red. This destination sign says surface transit. We really want to give the bus an identity. We want to create new bus stop signage. Most of the signage on the island matches, but some of it doesn't. They're a little faded. We want to come up with a new design, something we can do cheaply.
Yeah.
Also, we want to name the
Yeah,
routes,
just like that,
give them an identity. We want to come up with a new brochure and actually design a route map showing the stops. I know it's a short route, a simple route, but I think it's helpful for people to be able to visualize.
This type of neat building.
Should we pass it?
That type of building.
Oh, that's one. This looks Canadian to me.
Unfortunately, I think that one's Halliburton, but do it a crime.
So the other major thing is we really want to focus on multimodal, intermodal transportation. We want to get people walking. We want to get people to at least consider taking a bike and to just sort of enjoy the island and the public spaces that it has. So we want to look at things like wayfinding signage, improving the pedestrian network. Of course, everybody knows we've been looking at bike share and bike paths as alternate modes.
A lot.
Mhm.
A lot.
He broke it.
Yeah, you should buy it.
So here's another one. This will get all of our attention. We want to work on, now that we're growing, building the red bus service around headways and not the tram schedule, which means we want to keep making the bus more frequent. We want to service the increased demand, but what we're doing by waiting for the tram is causing another problem for us down the line. So if we're sitting there waiting for the tram that's 5 minutes late, and people are coming out, example, hypothetically speaking, if it's a few minutes late, people are gathering at the F train, then we can't accommodate them, and we're just getting further and further behind. So if you're running, service on a frequent schedule like we do at rush hour, 7.5 minutes, we'll be able to provide even further reliable service. We want to implement a plan for improved bus supervision. This will be involving a weekend dispatcher, as well as putting cameras on the buses. We want to extend red bus service to Kohler Hospital. This is because the two hospitals' coverage is because the shuttle will be discontinued.
On the weekends, we seem to be, maybe because of the nice weather, we seem to be having an extremely large population of visitors on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
That's been bad because they're running single tram and we're running reduced schedule at the moment on buses. We would have like a large crowd.
We run a single tram up until about 11 o'clock. From 11 o'clock until 8 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday, we run both cabins at
Okay.
15-minute intervals.
Yeah.
And then we run with 3 buses on Saturday.
We're running 3 buses. We start off from, was it 5:45 in the morning to 10 o'clock. Then 10 o'clock, the third bus comes in.
Yeah,
From
between
10
dogs,
to
sport
8:30.
folks, and some other, and a bunch of other things going on. We just have, it's great to see from a standpoint of our merchants, but we had a huge amount of people on Saturdays.
Yes, because we have my message.
Mhm.
Well, there were a lot of people left on the platform even when we had some bags.
Yeah, we were packed.
Mhm.
So,
The unfortunate thing is that those spikes and visitorship, you really can't predict them. We have to have a service that is consistent. So, we had wonderful weather this weekend, so I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of visitors here. And as the island develops and grows, if that's gonna be a constant pattern, then we can adjust for it in our transportation planning. But if it's just a spike here or there,
Right.
then it really doesn't justify increasing the service when we don't know when it's
Overall,
going.
right.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I think we need to monitor what's happening on the
Right.
weekends more and more
Well,
closely.
that's
because
what-
it's,
That's what they're anticipating by saying the weekend dispatcher and some other things
We
as well.
wanna have somebody in a supervisory position
Right,
here
now-
to make the call.
Yeah, the
on
next question
weekend.
is that if they have, we said, installation of cameras on the buses or at the tram, suppose we do get a huge spike, what are our provisions working with Home and Lightner to fire up the second tram if we have a sudden influx of people coming into the,
Oh, that happens now already.
I haven't seen it happen,
No,
but
but
I've
like,
seen a
for
large
instance,
crowd.
when the F train goes out,
Yeah,
they know they're getting a surge of
Okay.
folks from the train, and they run both cabins if we're in the off-peak period.
okay.
And if we get a surge of ridership, then they'll just run, and they know this, they'll run the trams more frequently or off schedule just to turn around and load and go.
Okay.
So they're prepared for that. But again, those spikes don't happen too often, so that's why we have the constant.
Well, the goal is
schedule.
hopefully they'll be happening more often because
Well, if it does happen
people
more
wanna come
often,
here.
if it does happen more often, then that's when we have to adjust our operation.
And basically, to deal with surges or anything pertaining to that, the buses, you have to deal with headways.
Yeah.
Not typically Even waiting for the tram to come in, you have to have
Yeah, you have
that
to recognize
constant.
there's a problem,
Right.
and then someone's gonna report it back in, and then you have to fire up a bus, assuming they have a bus and driver handy.
Right.
Then they have to come all the way down there, by that time the surge may have already cleared.
Right, but to deal with it it's not to deal with it waiting for the tram. To deal with any situation is to have that constant 7.5 minute headway. You have the length for it, we have the length for it, but it's the idea of, do you wanna run 4 buses? But I think the last frame that you see will help us out in answering that.
Yeah, what aggravates people is when they come down the tram, and as they're pulling down into the station, they see the bus pull out.
Well,
That kinda pisses people off, just as a customer satisfaction issue.
I'm down at the tram, all right, and I'm loading the people up. And the tram, I'm figuring out, well, why is the tram coming over so late? I'm down there on the PM side, so I feel, well, let me go over there and see what's going on. It's not so much the tram leaving late, it's the people come, hey, wait for me, hey, wait for me, wait for me, it's like a bus.
Yeah.
If you want the bus to leave on time, then you gotta let the tram leave on time. So it's a bigger picture than just the bus, and the bus is running on a schedule because if the bus leaves, we have people waiting on Main Street for the bus. So we're gonna hold the bus up at the tram, and then the other bus is coming down, then you're gonna have bus punching.
Right.
That's why you
I
can't
know,
depend on
it's-
the tram
I
headway, you
realize
gotta
it's a very
depend on the
complicated problem.
headways.
From customer sat issues though, when they're coming down the tram, and they see a bus sitting there, and this is a tram land, they see the
Right.
bus pull out because it's on a timer, then they go, oh, you know, and they're all annoyed and see
Oh,
the
it's
bus.
It's just like that
It's
third
a-
bus. The tram is coming over on Saturdays, it's in the middle of East River, and that third bus may be leaving. So people on the tram saying, oh, the bus left. Well, the bus didn't leave, that wasn't your bus. The
Yeah.
bus that's coming down, because there's only one tram, is your bus.
The truth is the more frequent the service, the harder it is to get them to match up, but the less that it matters.
Matters. Right.
Yeah, I agree. But,
Yeah. It's
Maybe,
sort of like
maybe we
we're-
can put the next bus map up on the tram.
Well. I'm so
Funny you
glad that you
mentioned
said that. It's actually on the next page, but, okay, so we're moving forward. Bus garage
I'm sorry, could you
renovation.
go back to
Sure.
we're going down to Kohler now?
We're not
No.
going yet.
Oh, we're going?
This is down,
And why are we
this is
gonna
in the
do this?
future, up to Kohler because they're going to be discontinuing the shuttle. And we
Right.
wanna make sure that we're providing coverage to the whole island. We have a lot of employees that travel from there to the F train.
Except the hospital doesn't pay us for our red bus service and the people in the buildings do, right?
No, but we
Is that
collect,
what-
we collect an easy $10, $15 a trip up there. We go up there.
Aren't they supposed to
They
be?
pay the fare.
They pay the fare. And they come in?
They pay the fare.
All right, but we never really did bus service to the hospital.
No, this is
No,
not,
no,
this is
no,
not
no.
anything short term, or in the near future, this is down the road and so on, and see how, again, this is looking at globally, with the island growth, you know, that eventually there's gonna be a need for, bus service going up to Kohler.
Yeah, the campus is coming there too.
And, yeah, on campus as
Yeah,
well.
hopefully we're gonna have more buses when the campus gets there.
Well, that's down.
That's something we're
Gold
gonna
Line.
have to negotiate.
We got that figured out, we got the schedule, it's just about Evie was great on that.
Because right now, we're not getting anything out of them, so we gotta, narrow it.
We're worried.
Okay, sorry. Back to the assessment of the Motorgate parking garage. We're looking at, issuing another RFP for garage operation. We're also looking into, ensuring that all transportation staff have OSHA training, certificate of fitness and fire marshal, for at least 2 transportation staff,
Right.
and 1 fire marshal.
being that we have suspensions there for diesel and gasoline, I wanted to set up a fire marshal in our facility. And we have to have at least one fire drill per month and 3 different shifts we have because we're 24 hours. And we need searches and, yes.
The city has 2 levels of fire supervisors. One is a fire marshal, and the other is much more of a systems operator who can control all the firefighting equipment in like a high-rise building. I have the card,
Yeah.
fire marshal, or I had it, it's expired.
Well, what we'll do is we'll do a simple right to know. Now we're getting really into something big. I don't know how far you want to go with this.
Well, you'll
Right
find-
now, we're getting into the right to know classes, which will do, ABC training for the fire extinguishers, and then just basic fire marshal with a simple graphs of who's a searcher, who holds the door, and pertaining to that.
Do you
At
know,
the facility needs.
are any of your drivers or staff trained in basic CPR?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, so, yes, they've been trained, actually, we've gone in, I think, in the 3rd or 4th year of having that training.
Okay.
But with the fire marshal and the fire safety director and the other certificates, it's timely
Yeah,
right now.
fire safety director.
Right, a certificate of fitness, yes. We're close to finalizing our union contract. The contract expired last year, so we've been negotiating for the past year, and we put this into the contract as a requirement. It didn't exist before, but as a requirement for the key positions in the operation, because it's significant given the level of responsibility we have with the things that we do.
Sort of going back into statistics, we want to look more at performance indicators. We have to generate them, and then we can of course refer to them in our planning. We want to implement the overall parking strategy for the island. That means smart parking island-wide, a new parking scheme, or pricing scheme to encourage short-term parkers on Main Street and longer-term parkers in Motorgate. And then this is the one with regard to information. More information for customers. We want to look into MTA is currently doing a pilot project with these interactive touch screen kiosks. We're going to be meeting with them shortly to find out a little bit more, but that would give us the opportunity to do trip planning, post advisories electronically. There's a ton of opportunities there for information sharing. And then we also wanted to improve the bus map and brochure, and then when I say information systems, that's sort of a department-wide initiative that would tie into the transportation, and that we're looking at a communication system that would more effectively communicate with the island than what we currently are using for advisories. So, what we want to know is what you want to see from the transportation department.
Is this the question time?
This is question time.
Well, I don't know how many of our meetings you've actually attended alone. But one thing that was quite certain on Roosevelt Island, everybody is smarter than everybody. And we're all geniuses on everything. So, we tend to be very demanding. And we look forward to demands. So I would start by saying, it has been a tradition with us, rightly or wrongly, to have a bus meet the tram as much as possible, and we've always known that this screws up the schedule. I should tell you that people have become accustomed to having the bus well at the upper tram stop, and in fact, your operators often run to the restroom and run back to stuff like that. And in order to implement a change to that expectation, you're going to have to really strive to have a bus every 7.5 minutes. And if you can do it, you can do whatever you want. But if you can't do it, then people are going to get real upset if there's not a bus waiting for them. Or if not at the upper tram stop, then when there's no bus at the upper tram stop, I tend to walk down the lower tram stop in case the bus is going on its way around the building. I imagine that will become a more likely process. We'll start running the buses all the way down. There's much more chance that a bus is just pulled out for the upper tram stop, because you got plenty of time to get to the lower tram stop.
The East Tram is gonna collect people, alive, and then we get a board, and then it's gonna go down to the park.
Then the
Time it
question of
gets
the bus
down to-
shelter comes up too.
Right, and then when we come up, the tram should be coming over, people should be getting off and walking down the hill, and this is what I'm basically hoping for, is that no longer does the bus have to sit there idle. And by the time we get connected, the bus coming up and the people walking down, people will be waiting maybe a minute or two, and then the bus will arrive, and then off we go.
We have to remember the disabled.
Yes, you
That's
do.
a hill there, and they had difficulty just this past year. It's something we have to always keep in mind,
Right.
is that the disabled will have difficulty getting down to the West Road.
Well, we're gonna have an influx of wheelchairs, we have some issues with going down there. You know, we have wheelchairs in the street that don't go on the sidewalk, we got the guy in the gurney going in the street, we
It's
have.
not just the wheelchair per se, I know that's Luigi D'Antoni, saying very well, people walk.
But, you know,
But
the disabled.
the service, the service.
We seniors walk slow.
Even that one,
Yeah.
No, either then, when you get off the tram, you can wait for the bus that's coming down, and don't walk down the hill, you have an option.
But we're gonna have a problem with that too. You have to realize that in the past, at the tram, we used to have, protection. And if you had to wait in the past, we had a good thing that we could say very easily, wait into that group. They go into the little waiting room. We don't have a waiting room anymore.
Right.
And, so if you're gonna be cold, and that's gonna be brought up too, I can foresee the difficulty in questions and complaints we're gonna have. And one of them will be in cold weather.
I know, I live in Manhattan, and I exactly know, I will wait on York Avenue for a bus freezing. Senior
But we don't
citizens
live
in
in
the city,
Manhattan.
you know.
You have to
Well,
remember, we don't live in Manhattan.
I'm not, I'm just saying that, I know, I
And
understand
the residents here are accustomed to certain things.
Well, there's also the safety issue down there, especially after hours. It gets dark, it gets lonely, if you just miss the bus, even 7.5 minutes
That's
standing
cool.
down there. One of the reasons I moved to the island instead of
Right.
taking the A train
Right.
out to Rockaway every day was because I wanted to take the tram and have a bus driver there and that's a scary spot.
Well, that's the main, that's why we wanted to ask the question, where do you wanna go?
Back
Where
to
you
the
wanna
way
take-
we had.
I could take you, I could
Bus
take
around
you,
and go back
well,
down the west side.
I could take you anywhere you wanna go with this transit system, but it seems that the board and RIOC, you have to work it out.
If
You
you
take
can-
anywhere you wanna go, you wanna go to the moon, we'll go to the moon.
If you can get to, as a matter of fact, I had considered a spaceport a necessity for the new university, but both Stanford and Cornell let me down.
Right.
So, be that as it may, if you can implement a 7.5-minute schedule, in other words, I'm not here to manage your department for you. You know, you hear complaints and issues people raise, but there's various ways to solve or address issues, and there's very often going to be some kind of compromise required by passengers. You cannot have, you know, you can't guarantee limousine service. You know, that's not what we're doing here. But if you can guarantee or successfully implement, not on a pie in the sky basis, a 7.5-minute schedule, then people don't really have much of a beef, do they, about the quality of their bus service, even if they might have to wait a couple of minutes at the tram or anywhere else on the street,
Right.
but even at the tram. But it only works if you guys make that happen. Otherwise, we're all gonna be yelled at again.
Si,
People are gonna be talking to Mike on
Can
the
you
street.
just be more specific in terms of the 7.5-minute headway, when it happens, off-peak?
In the mornings, we run 4 buses. All right, 4 buses gives you 7.5-minute headway with the length of the route. You have 1 express bus. From 10 until 3, we're running only 2 buses, which is a 15-minute headway. We go back at 3 o'clock to 8:30 at night with a 7.5-minute headway, because we're running 2 trams again.
And you can guarantee that once at a specific bus stop,
What I can guarantee is if you could get on the bus at the East Tram, if you want, or you could go over to the West Tram and get on the bus, but you're gonna wind up waiting at either end. You may be waiting only 2 minutes at the West Tram, but
well,
you
that's
may
not
have a
what I'm
bus at East
asking you,
Tram.
let me finish. If with your schedule, if you're able to guarantee that because you're gonna switch at 10 o'clock back to the 15-minute schedule.
Right.
If residents are able to time the bus and go out and really get on that bus at a certain time, then we'll know that I'm not going out now and freeze. I'm gonna
Right.
wait to a certain time, and I'm gonna go out there to get a certain bus
Right.
at a certain time. Now, if that could be guaranteed, that would be nice too.
Well, the 15-minute headway should have no problem.